Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nonprofit Marketing with Purpose. Today, I am actually repurposing a Facebook Live that I recently did with Amy Choi-Won. Now, Amy and I actually met on Facebook because she downloaded my free Giving Tuesday email templates later last year, and she used them to power her Giving Tuesday campaign. And then when I saw her posting about her success, I reached out and I was like, wow, this is so cool. And she said, can I talk to you? Because I'm doing some really cool things over here and I think we might have some synergies. And so it was pretty great because we sat on the phone for like an hour and we just sat around and nodded our heads, just like to the beat of the music, just absolutely agreeing with everything the other person said. Now, what's so interesting though is that Amy and I are actually different skill sets, which is pretty cool. So we complement each other. She's all about the running and the processes of a volunteer run nonprofit. She works especially with school foundations. She founded a Facebook group just for school fundraisers called School Fundraising Pro. Amy says that one of her favorite things is taking something that exists and making it better. So she looks at it from all angles and then thinks, what are the things that we could do to improve this? And I really love that mentality because that's the same mentality that I use with marketing and design. Looking at something from all angles and thinking, what can I do to make this better? And because we both hold that same core value, it's always fun listening to what she has to say and learning from all of her experiences. And with that, friends, let's get to that Facebook Live audio and listen to what Amy has to say about managing volunteers, especially those with low experience. You're on a mission and you just need more people to know about it. And whether you're brand new to marketing or a seasoned pro, we are all looking for answers to make marketing decisions with purpose. I'm Monica Pitts, a techie, crafty business owner, mom, and aerial dancer who solves communication challenges through technology. This podcast is all about digging in and going digital. I'll share my marketing know-how and business experience from almost 20 years of misadventures. I'll be your backup dancer so you can stop doubting and get moving towards marketing with purpose. Amy, why don't you just start by introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about your journey towards managing volunteers?
Sure. Thank you once again for having me on your Facebook Live today and your podcast.
Yay!
I'm so excited. I'm going to listen to this after this is done. As I mentioned, I started managing volunteers since I was in high school. I think it started from high school youth group. And then I went on to college and started volunteering for different organizations and became a board member for the volunteer association at college. And then I went on and continue to volunteer and continue to manage. Once I had my children, I got more involved with the school nonprofit foundations, where we raised lots of money. Actually, our annual budget's about $200,000 a year, and I've been doing that for some time. So it kind of turned into managing parent volunteers. And the organization that I serve, our sole purpose is to raise money so that the school can use that to support and enhance the educational experience for the students. So that's where I'm at.
You have a Facebook group that's just for school organizations, nonprofit school organizations, to help them do their fundraising. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So especially with COVID and then all the school closures and now that we can't do in-person fundraisings, I started looking for resources because I kind of felt helpless in some ways when everything closed back in March. And I realized that there's not much resource specifically for school nonprofit foundations. So I decided to make a course actually and a Facebook group for people like me so that we can all learn together and collaborate together. And I'm about finished with creating the digital course to support and train parent volunteers, and that will be released in March. And I also have a Facebook group called School Fundraising Pro Facebook group where we have parent volunteers and some vendors there, and we invite guest speakers. Actually, Monica, you are our guest speakers, and you had just amazing Facebook Live session for us. So we can learn from experts, and we can do our job better.
I love how niched you are because I feel like I work with all kinds of different nonprofits. And when it comes to the school, like foundation and fundraising part of things, while I'm on that on an auxiliary level with my own children, it's really specific. It's like talking to somebody about fundraising on behalf of animals versus on behalf of arts. It's different, right? The
Right.
appeal is a different scenario. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I feel like school fundraising has been kind of stuck in some ways. When I look at some of the schools and some of the PTA fundraisers, they're still doing bake sales. They're still selling frozen cookie doughs, kind of like what pa our parents did, but the world has evolved and there are all these other technology, other resources that we can use. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to develop the course to train the parent volunteers and let them see that there are other ways to raise money. Yes.
Yeah, I know. Whenever they ask my kids to sell things like wrapping paper, I'm like, can I just write a check? Because I really don't want to sell wrapping paper for my children. Like,
Right,
not even
right.
it. Oh man. And yeah, because I remember the back in the day where we bought all of our Christmas cards for our family's company through my cousin's fundraiser at school because that's what we did to support their school. And you're right, it is behind the times. And so you are managing a lot of volunteers because it's all those parent volunteers that help you do your fundraising.
Yes, definitely. And we do get people with lots of different experience. We do have some professionals with experience, like accountants, who would like to help, but we also have people like me, stay-at-home moms with lots of passion and who want to help and who may have more time to devote to that. So we need all kinds of volunteers, all their talents and their availability as well too. So yes, it's an interesting group to work with, definitely.
So I know that you have 5 tips for us. And I'm interested in these tips because I actually make it a point not to have volunteers in my company. Like at one point, I did have a few like unpaid interns. And after one summer of that, I said, never again. I will always pay people that work for me because when they get paid, they have a different working mentality. And a lot of the times, I even like to hire interns that have to work to pay their bills because
True,
then
true. Yes.
they have a much different working mentality than someone who's just working for beer money, right? Um,
Right.
so I'm interested to see how much it corresponds with my experience managing employees versus the non-paid employees of a nonprofit. So start us up at the top. What is the first tip that you have for us?
I guess the first tip is get to know your volunteers. Find out, first of all, why they want to volunteer and get a realistic picture of how much they can contribute. Sometimes people may think that they have 24 hours to give it to you, but that's not realistic. So, just kind of sit down and find out what other obligations they have and also find out what kind of talent they have, what kind of experience they have. Also, more importantly, what kind of network they may have, especially for people like moms, like me. We may know a lot of people in the community. We may know the business owners, we may know who knows what, who has what kind of connections. So that's very important information. So I would say, first of all, do the inventory and get to know your volunteers so that you know what they can offer. And then should I go into the second?
Yeah, no, I think that's great. I think you're like right on point because if you were looking to do a peer-to-peer fundraiser, you would want to pair it up with the person who was best suited to tackle the task that you're going to give them. You want them to be successful at the tasks, right? I mean, or else they
That's
don't want to do
true.
more.
Yeah, and then you also have to look at what the volunteer strength is also too. You may have a volunteer that may not be able to give you so many hours, but that person may be very well connected and will be able to introduce it to a big donor so that they have different way of contributing. In our foundation, we have some parents who may not have as much time coming to all the meetings per se, but when we're holding auction, they're one of the most important people because they can bring like fill up tables and they know the people who enjoy events like that, so they'll come and spend their money and support our cause. So you
Mhm.
have to look at it in a whole picture. Not every volunteer is going to be molded into the same type. They all have different things to contribute. So it's really important you get to know them.
Yes, because I'm the mom where if you ever ask me to bring paper plates, I will bring them every single time. Like, no problem.
Definitely.
Just ask me to bring the paper plates, I'm in.
Yeah, I mean, I'm serious. As room moms in the class, I get to know the parents, and I know who I'm going to ask for certain things. So paper plates, it's so good if you know that that person's responsible, will have that ready, and yeah, definitely. So yeah, look at the volunteers, get to know them, and then take them for who they are. If they're willing to give just a little bit, but may have other assets that can bring positive things to the organization, please keep that in mind and don't ask them to do other stuff.
Hmm.
So do the inventory first. And then I guess second thing is, be willing to train them if they have time and they would like to get trained. A lot of these volunteers come with different type of experience. So they may have really good foundational skills that you can work with. So work with their foundational skills. For example, moms like me, sometimes they get a little bit scared of the technology component of it, but they may have great writing skills. So, just show them how MailChimp works or show them how Google Doc works. Just, help them overcome that little obstacle. And then because they're such great writers, they'll be able to contribute so much to your organization. So, help them train a little bit, like help them overcome that little obstacle and make it as easy as possible for them to contribute. And then maybe just ask them to do one thing at a time because it's so easy to overwhelm them by saying, you need to know Google Doc, you need to know Google Sheet, you need to know MailChimp, and so forth. Instead of doing that, maybe show one thing at a time and just kind of like keep up with it and allow them to use the skills that they have. So I
One
was
thing I
willing to
really like
train.
to share instructions with is video. So for my Como Gives nonprofits, as I'm preparing them for the tech that they need to know for the campaign, even like when we did our donor Facebook Live thank you campaign, I used Loom. It's Loom. So it's a free screencasting like recording software.
Right.
And then I made them all these little videos and I just linked to it. And I'm like, here you go. This is how you're going to log in, and this is what it looks like when you're logging in, and then you can just give them the links, and it's I think it's like a weight off everybody's shoulders when there's a
I think so too. If you
how
can reduce, yeah, if you can reduce in-person meeting and do things through Zoom or like videos like that, video tutorials, very good. Volunteers love step-by-step instructions. So if you can show it to them like that, and then they can watch it at their available time, that's a great way to train them. So just think outside the box. You don't have to bring them in person to your organization, but if there's a way that you can work with them virtually, I think that's a great way to save your time and also allow the volunteer to get trained. Yes.
because it's like you don't need it till you need it, right? Like
Right.
when you're sitting down to work on it, that's when you need it, and you're like, man, I really wish I could see that again. Like, where is it on the screen? Where is that button?
Right, exactly. And if it's just like simple tutorial, you can find something on YouTube as well, but that volunteer may not be able to search for it. So even if you just like search a quick 5-minute tutorial on how to use, let's say Google Doc once again, but send them the link so that they can just go directly instead of spending hours searching for the right video. It'll be very helpful to, for that volunteer. Yes.
Do you do a lot of written instructions? Because I guess I'm one of those strange people that does enjoy like the bullet point, like these are the steps that you're going to go through with the occasional screenshot, but it's like I'm needy and I also want a video. Or do you just do video? Which do you tend to do more?
I do mix of them. There are some people who love, like, it's kind of like the Kindle versus the actual hardcover book. Some people love to print out the instructions and go along with it. So if I have time, because that takes a little bit more time for me, sometimes I do that. And another time, what I do is I just do like a Zoom, and then I just do screen share and then show them step by step how to do it. And sometimes I encourage them to bring their laptop,
Mhm.
like a second device, so that they can go through it with me because I think that's how people learn the best when they actually go through it. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So those are some things I do. And then the third thing I would do is um, using some sort of a template is really good. And that's one of the things we did with Giving Tuesday. We used your template actually. That's how I found you actually. I was just looking for resources. I'm like, maybe we should try doing Giving Tuesday campaign. And I was just, doing keyword search and looking, and then I found your email template. So the way we did it is there are two other volunteers that work with me on Giving Tuesday campaign for our organization. And one of them is actually a retired lawyer who writes so beautifully, but she doesn't know how to do MailChimp. She doesn't want to learn at this point. So what I did is I just gave her a template, your template. I said, oh no, these are some templates I got for Giving Tuesday. Do you think you can customize it so that, personalize it so that it sounds like it's related to our organization? And she was really happy to use a template because everybody gets overwhelmed when they look at the blank screen or blank sheet of paper. They're like, oh, okay, now what? Where do I start? But if there's some guideline, that are just much easier to start. So providing some sort of a template or a cheat sheet, some stepwise instructions on how to do something. Once again, it kind of goes back to training, but a little different because, templates like you can change things around, but
Mhm.
some little help, like, some help and a more specific guideline for them to finish the task. I think that's something that can be very helpful for volunteers.
And it'll save a lot of time as well.
Yes, because you don't have to recreate it each time. As long as you have the template, even if the next year a different volunteer is asked to do the same task, you have the guidance for that person. So definitely. So each time I would say you do a project, I would, put that time in there at the end that you're going to create some sort of a cheat sheet or you're going to create a template for
Mhm.
the next time. So that's a really great thing to have.
And especially, I think for events and that kind of thing, if you have events that you do, and I realize that they look a lot different now than they ever have before, but because of that, even more so, you end up having oftentimes a committee that's putting on this event. And some of them might have planned an event before, but others of them have never done it. And so while they might be excited about, throwing this event for you, they don't know the steps. And so it makes it much more stressful, especially as you're nearing the end of the planning phases. I can remember a few years ago, my Rotary group was tasked with doing Rotary Thanksgiving, and Rotary Thanksgiving is an event that's been held year after year in our community. And we were like, isn't there a list of the things that have to be done for this event? And no one had a list, like, anywhere. Eventually somebody like had this folder that they found that had like 100 pieces of paper in it that nobody knew anything to do with. And I was like, man, I mean, we wanted to put our own spin on it, but we spent so much time starting from scratch. It was kind of like we didn't even know who did the silent auction items the year before. Like, we didn't have a list of people to contact. Like, it was just starting from scratch. And it's like, man.
Yeah, that folder idea is really great, that physical folder, but that's a bit outdated now.
Yeah.
One thing I also encourage a lot of the volunteer organization is to allow the volunteer to have some sort of an email address or something. They can create something for free from Gmail as well that they're going to use specifically for that organization or the project so that they can have a Google Drive there, and it's just much easier to share with other people. And then, excuse me, once that volunteer is no longer with the organization, at least that email address is there with all the other records, and you can just pass that to the next volunteer. So that's something a lot of people don't think about, especially for parent volunteers as well, and also people who haven't volunteered much. A lot of they conduct a lot of business from their personal email address, and then they may say, "Oh, it might be there, but oh, I'm so sorry, I deleted that email," or things like that, so that you can't trace back and get that information. So
Mhm.
having depository of information is also important. Even if that person wasn't so organized as to create a cheat sheet, if
Mhm.
there's like a record of what's been done, that really helps also too. Yeah. So like for example, when we do auction, we have a Google Drive that we share where we put all our marketing materials, like old invitations, donation letters, and even like logos from the donors.
Mhm.
They might be all there because when you're creating a book, you need to collect all that, and you don't want to go back and ask repeated donors over and over for their logo.
Uh-huh.
And so we can say, oh, we have it already, and just you can use that. So having that kind of virtual folder is really important. We no longer want the hardcover folder because they can be misplaced, and
Mhm.
sometimes it's really hard to tell what is important and what needs to be thrown away. Whereas with the digital folder, it's just much easier to organize and share.
Well, and it's just easier also on your donors at that point because it's that much less work for them to contribute because you have all this stuff.
Yes.
That's just
Yeah.
great practice even for a business. I can't tell you how many businesses will email me and be like, Monica, I need my logo. And I'm like,
Yes.
that's awesome. Well, I have a great filing system, so I can always dig it out for you. But it's interesting to me that you don't have a file of it on your own. And
Right.
they don't,
Right.
they don't use it every day. So
Yeah. We've
great
had an
advice.
occasion. Yeah, we've had an occasion where we gave them their JPEG of their logo. They had, they had to find it somewhere because they didn't have it, and they gave it to us for our book. And then later they're like, I know I gave it to you. Do you happen to have that file? And then we gave it to them. So yeah, my motto is when you're working with donors, make it as easy as possible for them to donate.
Mhm.
And then making them feel special, like, oh, we have that connection, and I know you already. That goes a long way also too.
It does.
Yeah.
I know every time somebody's like, "Hey, can I have a bio?" I'm like, "Man, I'm gonna have to unearth that thing."
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what are we on? We're on
So
number
we've gone through three. I went through inventory, I talked about training, and I talked about template. And I would say the next one is do not abdicate your responsibility. So, when you find this great volunteer who's so eager to help you, don't just unload and then tell the volunteer what to do and then just abdicate completely. Just kind of be around and be helpful for a little bit. Make sure that they feel comfortable and they're doing it right. And also it helps to show them what the final product should kind of look like so that they have an idea where they're working toward. So you don't have to micromanage. Also, micromanaging is no. That's one of the things that would turn off the volunteer. But just kind of be there as a guidance, to make sure that they can seek help if they need it, because you don't want to overwhelm them. That's one thing that that's important to keep in mind is that volunteers, they're taking their own time out of their regular life to come and help you out. So if they feel overwhelmed with their personal life and other work life and things like that, that volunteer work might be the first thing that they decide to stop. So make sure that they feel appreciated, they feel like this is a doable thing. So do not abdicate the responsibility. Be there for them for a little bit. Maybe you can even schedule it like, I give you this responsibility. Let's check in about a week later, so that that person knows. Because sometimes people feel like, oh, I can't tell them, like, I don't want to ask for help. But if you schedule it, a session, like, oh, let's meet up, maybe every week for next 3 weeks, then that's kind of like you set a safety net for that volunteer. And then you can make sure that, that the project is moving forward.
And I think too, like on the other side, like as a volunteer, if someone asks me for something, I'm like, oh yeah. And I think I know what I'm supposed to do. And then if I get into it, a lot of the times I have questions. Like I'm not sure how opinionated you are about how this thing gets done, or like what are your expectations? And I may not have asked that to begin with. And so if you check back in with me, then I have that opportunity to ask you those questions and keep moving forward. Because what happens is if they don't check back in, then I feel like I've failed, because they're going to check, like the next time I see them at a meeting or whatever, they're going to be like, hey, do you have that thing done? And I'm like,
Yeah.
and I don't think you ever want the volunteer to feel like they failed. That's not
Right.
that's not
Right.
it.
Exactly. So, little TLC goes a long way just to make sure that they feel like they have all the resources to work with. And then, just when you start a new project, sometimes you think you know how to do it, but when you start, you're like, oh, yeah, it's a little bit more than I thought I was gonna do. So it's definitely good to check back in. And I would say schedule it. And, one of the reasons why I started the course also is that a lot of things that the businesses actually do, we should learn from it and apply that a little bit with volunteers too, So I thought that kind of just kind of being a support and having a mentor there to check in and help out. I think that's something really good to have, in the volunteer organization as well. So yeah, do not abdicate your responsibility when you're working with a volunteer. Just kind of be around and make sure that you guide them in the beginning at least.
Yes.
And then the last one I would say is management of the volunteers. I would say when you get somebody to come, you hope to have long-term relationship with them. So even if you find a great volunteer who is so capable and who is so passionate about your cause, at least in the beginning, don't give them too much, because that volunteer might have been so passionate and took all the responsibility in the beginning, excuse me, and then realize, oh my gosh, I still have to take my kid to school. I still have to, make dinner tonight, and then realize that this is too much, and they might just decide to stop it. So think of it as a little bit of a management, kind of find out, like, don't give them too much in the beginning. Yeah, kind of slowly figure out how much they can do and then give them more if they can take it. So management is very important also too. Yeah.
Absolutely. So one question that I get a lot from my nonprofits are, where can you find volunteers? They're always looking for them. They always want to make new relationships with volunteers. Do you have any advice on where they can find those people?
Yeah, I guess it kind of depending on the cause and the type of volunteer that you have. But in general, I would say there are some organizations that are ready to volunteer. For example, I am part of an organization called National Charity League, and that's an organization for mothers and daughters, and it's for seventh grader girls. They're in it from seventh grade to 12th grade. And what they do is they normally support different charity organizations within the city they're in. And there are over, I think, 50 organizations all across America. So I would say that's a great organization to look into. Also, they have a boy version too. I think it's like, I don't know the exact name because my son didn't do it, but there's like a National Service Legal Boys or something like that, you
Mhm.
know. And then if you're looking for like college volunteers, there are also sororities and fraternities that focus on charity work as well. And we actually have partnered with them a lot for our auction. They've come and helped us, check people in and then check people out. And they are very good and they love working. And a lot of them are into marketing or in business. So they're very interested in even learning about the skills that they can gain from helping you with different events. So those high school and college students are very good. And then what I would say is like people like me in some ways, like people with older children, I do have some high school children. So I've chosen to stay home with them, but now I'm at an age where my children don't need me all the time. And during the school hours, may have some more flexibility. So I'll look for maybe, some stay-at-home moms, who have a little bit more availability, but who have good foundational skills once again, they're really good people to recruit also.
Is there a way that you like reach out to the sororities or the high schools to get volunteers? Do you just send them an email or go to their website and look for somebody, or is there a way that you find works best?
Um, for me, it was easier because I used to have a nanny business and I was recruiting a lot of nannies and some of them were part of those organizations. But a lot of colleges have career centers and you can just kind of call them even and then just say, are there any organizations, within your campus that does some charity work? A lot of times college career center people are very resourceful and they know a lot about it. And so just um, checking them out is really good. And then I haven't really checked it out myself, but there's volunteermatch.com.
Okay.
So that I recently heard about. You can look into that. I've utilized donationmatch.com, which was kind of finding auction items. So just Google is also really really good too. That's a good starting point. Yeah.
Yeah, I have definitely learned a thing or two from working with college age students because they have such a fresh take on things and they're not afraid of technology for the most part. And so they come in with skills that a lot of organizations might be lacking in their older volunteers. And so these younger volunteers will just come in and be like, yeah, sure, it's cool. Of course, I'll do all of your social media posting for you. But I do find that I have to, like you said, I have to give them a responsibility that's something that's like cyclical. It's not too much. They can focus on this one thing, and then I also need to review their work and make sure that they understand that they've met the expectations or what the expectations are, or else we're just going to end up with really crazy stuff. Because sometimes it does. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
you think that it's going to be great, and it's creative in the not way you were thinking it was going to be creative.
Yes, definitely, definitely. There has to be check and balance. And also, just showing them like, oh, these are good examples of what we're looking for. This is how we brand our company or our organization. So, yes, a lot of communication and little some trial and error, but definitely there has to be some check and balance. Yes.
Yeah. And so if you are looking for a like template to help you through the process of all of that documenting of branding your organization, in my nonprofit marketing plan template, which is a free download on mayecreate.com, the first couple of pages of it is all about like, hey, you need to answer all these questions. That way everybody on your team is on the same spot. Like they know, here's the colors, here's the logo. What do you refer to the people you serve? How do you call them? Make sure that everybody's calling them the same way. Can you abbreviate your name? Like all these things that you don't really think about until you have somebody trying to abbreviate the name of your organization in the social post. And you're like, wait a second, that's weird. Who is that you're talking about? I'm like, I don't know what that is. um,
Yes. Yeah,
so
I agree. Some onboarding process is definitely necessary when you get volunteers, but at the same time, just keep it so that you don't overwhelm them. What
mhm.
I found out is that unless they come with a lot of like young people with a lot of tech skills, if they don't have them, just kind of show them simple things one at a time is important. And also, yes, definitely onboarding, and then they understand the mission and even like the branding color. Some people don't even realize there's such a thing. so just kind of letting them know that this is how our organization operates. So yeah.
Okay, so Before we wrap up, I know that you use the Giving Tuesday email templates, and with like a team of how many was there? 3 volunteers, you and two
Yes.
other people. You guys managed to, like, for the first time, run a Giving Tuesday campaign pretty directly, like without a gajillion hours invested in it. So tell me a little bit about that, and maybe you can inspire some people. Tell us about it.
Yes. So we had 3 volunteers. They're all parents working on Giving Tuesday campaign. So once again, I mentioned my friend who was a lawyer before, who's a beautiful writer. She took care of all the emails, and we did that using your template, which made the work so much easier for her. And then we have a dad who kind of manages our website.
Mhm.
So he just kind of changed it. This is a place where they can donate. And
Mhm.
then what I did is I used Canva, which is, by the way, free for nonprofit organizations. I used Canva to create different logo. Like we just called it Giving Tuesday for Troy because the purpose of our campaign was to increase awareness rather than raising lots of money. So we were saying give 20 for a high school,
Mhm.
that we are part of. So I created the social media postings, and then we just scheduled all the postings using Facebook Business Suite. And that was very easy to do. It's free. And then we just put it in there. And then I took the email from my friend and then scheduled all the email, MailChimp, and it got sent out. And that's kind of basically it. We sent an email on November 30th, which is Monday, just to let people know. And then we sent one out on December 1st, which was Tuesday itself in the morning. And then we also sent one out on Wednesdays, just thanking people and also saying, hey, just in case you didn't get a chance to donate, please donate. And that actually gave us 20% more from the Tuesday. So I'm for end of the year's campaign, I'm definitely sending out another thank you email day after.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
December 31st. Yeah, I might even send another one out on January 2nd, just say, hey, thank you once again. Yeah.
So how much did you end up raising then in your Giving Tuesday emails?
Yeah, so we ended up raising $2,000. And, it involved just 3 volunteers. We never had to meet in person. We just did everything through Zoom. And it was just very easy things. So we're going to replicate it again. I got your template for end of the year giving campaign again, and I gave it to my friend. And she actually just sent me 3 emails that we're going to send out for tomorrow, and then December 31st, and then January 1st. So I'll plug that into MailChimp. And then I just got an email from my other friend who manages website with the links like, oh, this is the link you need to give people so they can donate. And we're
Mhm.
just going to cast our net there and then see what happens.
I love that you're so adventurous though, because there's a lot of people that are like, "Ooh, I don't know if I want to do this. This is different." But you're brave. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I mean, I think especially time like this, when we don't know what the situation is going to be like, um, you just kind of have to try everything. It's kind of like throwing pasta against the wall and see what sticks.
Mhm.
And by doing different type of campaign, you also find out more about your donors. What would tick them, who would donate. So for example, when we did Giving Tuesday, we got several donations from people who follow us on Facebook, and they were not in our donor file or anything. So just we learn, I'm like, oh, okay, that person pays attention and feels deeply enough about the school to donate. So okay, that's good to know. So unless you try different things, you don't know. So as long as you're not losing the money, I think you should give it a try. If
Yeah,
it's like some sort of a fundraising thing, yeah, you should give it a try. Just have a budget so that you're not losing money. As long as you're not losing money, you should give it a try. Yeah.
that's a great pep talk for my Como Gives friends that are closing out their year-end campaign. We hit $1 million last week, which was
Wow, that's
really
great.
exciting, and that was our goal. So then we upped it after doing some good math. I really think that we can hit 1.5 million. So we'll see how it goes.
That's so great. That's so
That's my
great. I'm so
nervous
happy for
sound.
you. Oh my God. Oh, one thing I would add also is the MailChimp and things like that, it gives you analytics also. So you just learn more. Unless you actually throw something out into the world, you
Mhm.
don't really learn about the people that you're working with. So yes. And I love that you're there to support them.
Yeah,
I'm sure you make that what they do much easier by providing them resources and templates. So
that's
yeah,
my goal. That is absolutely my goal. Yep. And I
1.5
feel like
million. That's great.
I love that you are a student of your audience. Like, we learn so much from the people that we serve. And if we are just continually curious about it, then we will learn more and serve them better and also do better in our next effort to raise money for our cause. So
Definitely.
really quick, list off your 5 tips, and then we will head out.
Sounds good. All right. So, 5 tips to increase engagement from your volunteers. I would say the first thing is to check your inventory. Get to know your volunteers. Find out what their skills are, find out what kind of connection they have, and so forth. And then second thing is to invest some time to train them. Remove some of the obstacles they may have, especially when it comes down to tech issues. Kind of show them stepwise instructions or do a video tutorial to kind of help them overcome that little obstacle. Third is if you have cheat sheets or templates, please use them. I have used Monica's Giving Tuesday email template, and I'm currently using end of the year email templates. That's very useful to use. And then fourth is do not abdicate your responsibility once you delegate it to the volunteer. Be around and maybe schedule a follow-up session so you can check in and provide the resources that they may need. And then number 5 is management of the volunteers. Keep in mind that, do not overwhelm them. That's the first thing. And also, make things more manageable for them because for volunteers, if things get overwhelmed, the first thing they might do is just quit because they're not getting paid. So make sure that, you talk to them and just check in with them and, give them enough, but not overwhelm them. So those will be my 5 tips.
So I took notes. And I will give everyone the Cliff Notes version of these 5 tips in the show notes. And thank you so much, Amy, for hanging out with us today. I really appreciate it. I'm sure everybody learned stuff. I mean, I certainly did.
Thank you for inviting us. It's been so fun. And I think, volunteers have a lot to give. I almost feel like it's untapped, treasure that we can kind of learn to, work with more. So thank you once again.
And tell people where they can connect with you. Tell them your Facebook group and your contact information.
Sure. My Facebook group is called School Fundraising Pro Facebook group. Not very original, but it's really easy to find. Yeah. My website, once again, is www.schoolfundraisingproacademy.com. I do have a digital course coming out that's going to help train the volunteers. And if you'd like to email me, it's amy@schoolfundraisingproacademy.com. So name's not very original, but it's easy to find me.
You know what? Sometimes not very original, but very direct is the exact right name.
I hope so.
It describes what you do, and that is on point. And Google loves that, actually, like in a domain name. So you did great.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, and Happy New Year.
I have to find my end broadcast button. It's someplace. There it is. Okay, bye-bye. Now, because I always forget to say it, you can find the show notes for this episode and any of the resources that we talked about in it, like that nonprofit marketing plan template, over at mayecreate.com, and that is spelled MAYECREATE.com. And also remember that for the next 2 months, so until February 17th, I am available Thursdays. I have free office hours open to nonprofits where you can come and pick my brain and maybe try to stump me in a marketing question. So RSVP for office hours at mayecreate.com/office-hours, and I hope to meet you there. So until next time, you know what to do. Go forth and market with purpose.